All right, so we started recording. Just for a brief introduction, my name is Dana Zorns, and welcoming everyone back for another segment of the All American Kettlebell Open. Get to know our athletes. I'm here with Stephen Riddle.
Hello, nice to
Hello,
meet you.
nice to meet you as well, Stephen. If you don't mind, take a couple minutes and just introduce yourself. Talk about you and the team that you represent, and all that good stuff, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, cool. So as I say, I'm Steve Riddle, 43-year-old. I live in Guelph, Ontario. So for all the American people, if you know Ontario, Toronto, I'm about 45 minutes to an hour west of there. As I say, I'm in the All American Open. I'm part of the Vegan Strong team. I've been vegan for about 9.5 years now, or almost 9.5 years. It was 2015 when I started stopping eating meat and any animal-based source. And then say for kettlebells in general, I started lifting kettlebells probably back 2013, and I started competing in kettlebell sport in 2014 was my first one. So almost 10 years now of lifting in this sport. I also do some coaching. I also have another team. Team Riddle is also another of the kettlebell teams I'm on. That's like the organizer. I have a couple of athletes on my team as well. Recently, we just held our own competition as well in July, end of July, the Riddle Open. It was a national qualifier for the Team Canada to lift at IUKL, WKS events. So that was our third live one. The last 3 years we've done live, and that's our second straight year of doing, as I say, like for a national team qualification. But yeah, looking forward to this coming competition. Being part of the Vegan Strong plant-based team. There are a lot of people on this team coming, not just in kettlebells, but like powerlifting, CrossFit, you name it. And then just basically, showing that you can achieve pretty good numbers, lift heavy weights, do all the same things, and you don't need to eat meat to do what people think you have to, I guess, really.
Right, that's pretty awesome. Last year, the plant build team was they came in big numbers to the All American Sports Festival last year. We had two competitors from the Vegan Strong team, which was Sarah and Hege last year, and this year. I believe it's quite a few of you guys for the All American Kettlebell Open this year, and not only the All American Sports Festival with the Mr. America. Your team is pretty much in every sport.
Yeah, we had a call, I think like last month, and there was like easily 30 plus people on that call, and I think on the kettlebell team alone, you're looking at probably 12 to 15 people, I think. So
yeah, it's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
Last year, I think the biggest team that was there was I want to say it was the Great Plains Kettlebell Club. They pretty much Kim Fox's team. Yes. They pretty much they won it all last year. They won the big prize, which is a full set of pro kettlebells. Well, this year it's going to be up for grabs because simply the Vegan Strong team is just coming with big numbers.
I think that's the focus, right? Just come in there, make a big team, show what we can do, lift heavy weights, and then walk away with all the trophies and the belts.
Absolutely. So Stephen, if you don't mind, you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to get into kettlebell sport. I know you said it's been about 10 years for you. Talk about that journey a little bit.
Yeah, so it was, I think like a lot of people, again, obviously, I did a kettlebell certification way back. I was a personal trainer, so I enjoyed using kettlebells back then. This was like 12 years ago now, 13 years ago. And I was like using them, playing around with them, had a couple of my own, but like didn't really know what I was doing with them. So I was like, okay, well, probably the best thing is to get certified. I know a couple of trainers I worked with went to a certification course. So they were like, it was really good, really helped their skills. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to check it out too. Best thing is get certified. That's why I was looking as a trainer, right? Just if you're going to be good at it, you really should be taught and know how to do 100%. So I did the course, and then during the course, the instructors had said that a great way to get good at like snatch, jerks, long cycle, or clean jerks is competing in kettlebell sport. And at that time, I had never heard about it. I was just like, wow, what is this? What is a kettlebell sport? So they kind of briefly described.
If you don't mind if I cut you off, what certification did you go through? Was it a hard style?
No, it was a Gatsu. So Gatsu was more almost like sports style in terms of how they even train their certifications. It's more sports style, just general fitness versus like the strong first hard style.
Right. So from the get-go, they teach a more efficient philosophy.
Yeah, more like I say, conditioning based, longer sets, like higher reps, versus, as you say, like the strong first, like 5, just like that strength training, hypertrophy, right? Really like heavy weight, low reps, high sets. So they'd kind of give me that example, and they told me about kettlebell sports. So I looked into it, and they hosted kettlebell competitions like twice a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. And I'd done the course in the spring, so I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll do the one in the fall. At the time I was doing the certification and everything, I was actually training for a bodybuilding competition I was doing, which is kind of random. So I'd done my bodybuilding show, and then after that show, I wanted to do sport. So I basically trained for my second bodybuilding show, just trained kettlebells only as well, incorporating them. So yeah, so like getting stronger, still lifting kettlebells.
You did a bodybuilding show just from training from kettlebells?
Yeah, for like about probably 6 weeks or so, 6-7 weeks prior to it was very odd in terms of like what it was. But I think at that point too, I was not wanting to do bodybuilding anymore. So it was kind of like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing the training. I can maintain the size I had for my last show up until my next show, but I could still just do kettlebells because I want to get good at that, because I want to do this show. So then I competed in like October of 2014 in my first kettlebell competition. And then it was just kind of like hooked from there. Like, it's like I did one and it was okay performance. I just did snatch then. I was like, okay, that's okay, but I want to get better. And then it was like, it just keeps growing and growing and growing, right? Then 6 months later, did another show, and then I'm a trainer, so then you get people and you're getting people wrapped in and like, hey, you should try this kettlebell sport. It's really fun.
Yeah,
relatively speaking, fun. It's different type of training. And then like as I say, like really it was probably like 2016, 2017 that I just kind of got hooked, and has just been basically maintained that part of my lifestyle of like a main training focus for me just from then on for the last 7 years.
Wow. I think that's how it gets everyone, that first competition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do. It's
whether you do good or bad, it's a great experience. And for me, I was just pulled in right there, and I'm just like, yeah, this is love.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, again, I used to do like running as well, like marathons, half marathons. And I did my first half marathon, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. But then all of a sudden, it's like, I think it's competitiveness too in you or myself. For most people, like I think who become trainers are very, maybe athletic, play a lot of sports, competitive throughout their whole life. And you can't be a professional like athlete in terms of whatever sport you play growing up. So now you're like, okay, this is like the next best thing to keep me motivated, driven, competing, right? Because as you say, it's nice because as you get older, when you can't play those sports as much high level because of jobs or life injuries, this is just something else you can fall back on and still do, and again, still get that competitive juices flowing and pretend like you're still an athlete, or still think that you're an athlete and train like one too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you develop and maintain a certain amount of athleticism with these sport movements.
For sure, 100%. I just find it so transferable too to like, just again, even if you do want to go back to like just traditional lifting, by doing kettlebells, I can still like, bench press, squats, deadlifts, and you can still pull decent numbers, but you don't touch a bar for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I met we were doing some training Friday evening. We do training at the Gold's Gym because they're one of the major sponsors for this event. So they allow kettlebell sport people to train in their gym. And we always get spectators, people walking by, and they see us doing these long sets, and this older lady, she was about 58, and she was just so like pulled in just by watching us. And she got up and she wanted to practice a few things, and just from watching. And I was explaining to her that there's so many athletes her age that do this sport and do it well, you know.
Yeah.
And she was showing her Instagram profiles of people, and you know um, older athletes that are in the sport and do well. And she was like, I'm coming back next Friday.
That's cool. No,
I
yeah,
think
that
I think it's
definitely
pretty
one of
cool.
the
Yeah.
nice things about it is, again, based on just the variables of bells and what you can do, that it's like you don't have to be 25, 30, whatever. It's not a young person sport, right? This is a sport for everybody, which is makes it even better to do as well, and just allows you the opportunity to still do it as you're 40. Like, I'm an old man now. And like, as you get older, I can still compete if I want to,
Right.
like, based on different divisions, everything too. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to competing, uh, how do you mentally prepare for competition? Uh,
Uh, Probably like the week prior, a few weeks prior to like the competition day. Like, a lot of times it's more like visualization for me. Like, just,
mhm.
you know, you go through your brain. You basically I just try to recreate my set in my brain of like what I want to do. So I always like have like a target. Like, I want to hit X amount of reps. I want to keep this pace per minute, like throughout my training. So using those, what I've done in my training as like my benchmark, really to see like, okay, is it actually possible for me to do so? And then, yeah, like, I'm just like, it's almost like a 10-minute timer in my head. I'm like, okay, like, you can just, in the mornings when I'm like just waking up, just getting self, I'll just start thinking about it. Like, okay, like, first minute I want to hit this. Okay. Then second minute, depending on my body feels, go for this. 5 minutes. Okay. Push maybe that fifth minute, but then drop back. It's, as they say, it's like a lot of like recreating
Mhm.
what this set is going to be like in my head, so that when I go there, I'm kind of knowing what I want to do versus like guessing, right? And
Does it ever
also,
happen exactly how you visualize it?
um, mostly no. um, on those rare occasions, it does actually happen. But yeah, like most of the time, not like something will happen, right? Like,
Always,
just
always.
anything, right? And it's like
I,
you try not to let the crowd hype get it to you, or you try not to, even the event, like everything. It just, you want to stay in that moment as much as possible, right? But
mhm.
it's almost like, as they say, it's especially in kettlebell sport. It's any athlete, right? As you, the day of the competition, anything can happen. Like, you could have a perfect training cycle, perfect last 2 weeks, whatever, and then you're like, your last look beforehand, you're like, I feel great. I'm ready to go. I'm so solid. And then all of a sudden, like, you wake up that next morning and you're just like, no, my body just isn't it.
It's not
And
having it.
not happening. And no matter what you do, you can't make it right. It's just for those days when everything does go right, and then you're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was good.
I love that answer there, the visualization. And I talked to another athlete last week. You may have met her, Buffy. She's out west. She's up in the Seattle area. But one of her big things is visualization as well. And she would literally go through a whole 10-minute set, like in the motions, no weight, nothing like that, like the morning of, or something like that, or the night before, just to help her mentally prepare. But she told me she would literally go through the entire jerk set, 10 minutes, just
Yeah.
to feel it, and put her mind state there. Because
Yeah.
we all know, like, mind state is like one of the most important things when it comes to these longer, grueling sets.
Oh yeah. Like, it's it's I compare it, again, it's like anything, but really like marathons or half marathon training, running too, right? Because it's just like you up there. Like, the platform is like you on the tarmac running, or wherever you are running. It's your brain wants to give up way before your body will, right? Because it's like, as a lifter, you know it too. I've done it. Like you're lifting, something goes wrong and you put the bells down and then you kind of look at yourself going, what did I do? Why did it stop? Like, I'm not tired. I'm not sore. I'm not weak. Like I could have done more reps, but it's just like your brain sent a message saying like, nah, like you're just not into it today. Same thing with running. It's like anyone can run. You can run for an hour, 2 hours straight if you want to. It's just, again, how fast you want to go is the big difference, right? You can go slow and run for 2 hours. The same thing with lifting. You can go slower. It's just, can you handle having that weight on you for that amount of time? But yeah, it's just trying to be staying in the moment as much as possible. Like when I train, a lot of times I don't listen to music at all either. So like when you go to competitions, all of a sudden there's music playing. You're like, wow, this is different. But I can be so wrapped in my set that when people are like, I can come right up to the stage or platform and I'll be like, what songs played during my sets? Because like I'll have zero idea.
Just wouldn't know. Right.
Just wouldn't know. Yeah. Like I'm so like, again, that's good because I guess I can say I dialed in so much into my lift that it's like, I don't know like what the song is like when I'm walking up. And then as soon as like I'm walking off, I'm like, oh, there's a music in. But in between that, it's just like in my head, I'm just like, okay, 7 reps, 8 reps, whatever rep it. I'm just like focused on all myself. That it's just like I don't want anything else inside my brain to like affect me. So outside noise, I don't need like people cheering for me. In honesty,
really,
just no. Like,
well, you're gonna have a hard time with that because last year, I swear the plant built team went absolutely crazy. Sarah was doing one of her sets on Sunday, and this was like towards the end of the overall thing. So a lot of the plant built people like come over and they brought chairs and everything. We had like this big audience sitting out, and boy, they made it loud. They did.
Yes. No, I think it was good. Like as I say, like last month when I lifted in my competition, there was like a big crowd of people watching. Not probably the same size crowd as that, but there were enough people near the end of the set, like myself and one of the other lifters, like lifting against each other, like the two of us left on the platform and both lifting green. So going back and forth. And there was a lot of cheering and applause. So I could hear it. So it wasn't too bad. I think I'm getting better now as I get older. But when I used to be back, it would just be like, nah, I'm like, I just can't. I like the peace and quiet, almost like I'm lifting my garage, my basement, just by myself, just no outside noise affecting me.
Right. I want to ask you a question that's not on the list, but it's pertaining to what we were just talking about. When you run or when you're doing long sets, I have experienced this, like when I'm like mid set or I'm reaching that lactic threshold and I start to push through it. You have to really mentally be there, but sometimes, like I've even done this on longer runs. I get this like really tingly sensation up my spine to my neck and my head, right? Does that ever happen to you? Is that like when it first happened to me running, I thought, oh, okay, maybe this is the runner's high, right? But then it's happened to me while I was lifting too. And I'm like, and sometimes it's like, it's overwhelming, the tingling sensation that I get. And I'm like, I wonder if this is like me pushing through that lactic threshold, or is this like a lifter's high or something, you know?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that?
I don't know if I've ever like per se felt like something like that. I think the biggest thing I get for myself is like when I'm doing like say longer sets, like especially kettlebells, when I'm in my training, it's almost like, which is a bad thing, but it's like when I get near the end of the set, it's kind of like the same feeling when you're near like the 10-minute mark. But if I'm doing like a 6-minute, 7-minute set, it's almost like my brain wants to start like I'm at 2 minutes left. I'm like, okay, now I'm like, I fast forward to like, what am I going to do the last 30 seconds? And it's like my adrenaline really starts to increase. So like that's like the biggest thing that I see when I train is just like, and again, it's not even 10 minutes. It could be a 4-minute, 5-minute, 6-minute, 7-minute set. But it's like all of a sudden, like my brain will just, or my body wants to like shift into like overdrive or do something more than it wants to. And I'm just like fighting myself to be like, no, like you gotta like, you still got 90 seconds. You still got 2 minutes. Like you gotta control yourself. Relax.
For those that don't know, 2 minutes is actually a very long time.
It's especially minutes 9 and 10, like those last 2 minutes, like those are very long. And it's like everyone always trains with like 7-8 minutes, right? And people say like then people say like, oh, you'll use the crowd as like the adrenaline or the push to get you that, but it's still hard. Like they can help get you through, but it's like you might not be able to get the reps that you want.
Absolutely.
Right? You're just holding on and praying and doing whatever you can to keep the bells up because like you want to finish that 10-minute set and like those people are encouraging you, but it's just like, you might be shooting for 8-9 reps per minute, and all of a sudden you're only doing 6. So you're like, man, okay, I can still do it, but it's still not as effective. So, but yeah, I don't think I've ever had that tingling sensation as you say, or maybe I just haven't really noticed it. To like,
it's so weird that it happens like that, and it's like, yeah, it just rises up my spine, and then like it feels like it's like out my head for some reason. I don't know why, but it's happened to me multiple times.
Does it make your list better though, or
I think when you said adrenaline, I think that might have something to do with it because it's like it's almost like when it happened to me the first time and I was running, I wanted to speed up.
Yeah,
I wanted to just really get after it, right? And it's the same thing with the lifting as well.
Yeah.
But I have to control that. I'm like, no, don't overdo it. Stay right where you are because you're doing all right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what are you training for the All American?
So I signed up for the triathlon.
Nice.
24 kilograms for fun.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
24 kilograms triathlon, 10-minute sets.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Yeah, you guys are coming after the big prizes, man.
I decided if I'm gonna like do this and we're gonna come, like I want to come and like represent really hard and like show up and like really do big. Like I've done it a few times, so it's not new in terms of like training triathlon. So that's one thing, but I do have some goals I want to set, like in terms of like again my own mindset of like what I did, like almost hitting like CMS triathlon would be like my first target. Like that's my target really.
Have you reached that before? Or?
In triathlon? No.
Okay.
Not with 24s. With 20s, probably I would have. But 24s, no. I think level 1. I came close. But I think that was like 3 years ago now. So I think I'm a better lifter, stronger. So I changed my mindset even too in terms of like how I used to do it. Like a mindset, like I used to do biathlon first when I finished with long cycle, which I think is kind of crazy when I look at it now. So I'm switching it up to long cycle should be first, jerkland second, and then finishing with snatch third. And I think based on the scoring as well, and my long cycle, I am a better long cycler than I am on jerk. So yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Dive in a little bit to your training philosophy, because you're maybe the second or third athlete now that I've talked to that is doing triathlon. Do you have a coach that is guiding you through? What are some of your training philosophies? How do you head into a training cycle for a triathlon with 24 kilos?
I don't have any coach. I coach myself. I have had a coach in the past, but right now I feel pretty confident with myself in terms of coaching and what I need to do, just through trial and error and practicing and lifting for as long as I have. I think if I was going to go up to like 32s, I'd probably want to look into getting a coach at some point, just because it'd be better. Yeah, like I've tried very different approaches in terms of like, say, when it comes to like triathlon training, like how do I split it up? Like one day strictly biathlon, one day long cycle, and then maybe I try to do like 4 days a week. That's my for triathlon. I think 4 days is minimum to me what I feel that you need just to give you enough time and volume, because you're doing 10-minute lifts, right? So you need to spend as much time with the bells as possible. So some weeks four lifts is tough, but I still try to, like, based on like old coaching, how I split up, like one day will be like my first day or my first lift of the week will be like intervals, like 1 minute sets. Break that down like smaller, like 7, 8, 9, like type of like 9 sets of 1 minute or 8 sets of 1 minute. And then like my second lift of the week will be more like intermediate lift, like 3 to 4 minute sets. And then like the third lift, if I do like a combination 3 and 4, like all 3 lifts, I'll do like a light one on like the day 3 again, as like a prior to like a competition day per se. Like, okay, I'm going to lift, say I'm lifting on Saturday, I'll lift Thursday or Friday, I'll do a light lift Friday, just to kind of get my body ready. Almost like, again, like my mindset of like, I like to, if I'm competing on a Saturday, I like to lift the day before. Like some people are like, well, like, you know, some people train like, if competition is Saturday, like I stop lifting Wednesday or Thursday, give myself 2 or 3 days off. I just don't find that really works for myself in terms of how my body is. I feel that's too long away from the kettlebells, and it just like, it takes me longer for my body to get worked up, like warmed up, used to it. So I like to do something simpler just on the Friday to get myself, and then on that Saturday or Sunday, depending on the week it is, I will do my longer duration sets. But it's so like a sport style, like a competition day, but it might just be one set of like 5 minutes, like long cycle, one set of like 5 minutes jerks, and one set of 5 minute snatch, and give myself like a shorter rest period too, 5 to 6 minute rest period between my sets, just again to challenge myself a little bit. So I'm still almost fatigued, because again, on that same day, like you're going to be fatigued regardless. It doesn't matter what you do. And then, yeah, I basically, I plan my weeks out like week by week. I don't do like, okay, like 16 weeks or 12 weeks to my competition. Everything is going to be like, it's not just a linear process. Like kettlebell sport, like, you know, like kettlebells are not linear. Like every week is not going to be a good week. You could have many bad weeks, right? So I like to just forecast week on, week out, sometimes even like a couple days out based on how it's feeling, because of like, as you say, I might just have to adjust based on sleeping one day, eating one day, getting some occupied, getting a visitor. There you go.
Yeah, it's my little buddy.
There you go. Is he the birthday boy?
No, that was my middle daughter. She turned 8 yesterday.
Oh,
And
nice.
this is my youngest son. He's 3.
Wow.
You want to say hi?
Hi. How's it going? You have 3 kids?
I have 3. Yes, sir. Yep.
Busy.
Yep.
Busy.
Been busy.
Busy man. I have 2 kids, so I understand.
Yeah. 3 and I'm busy and I'm done.
I was done at 2.
If you want me to get a little personal, I was done at 2 as well. And then you know,
COVID
I had a COVID baby. Also, to get even a little more personal, I was supposed to go get a vasectomy, right? And then the day that they shut everything down for COVID was the day that I was supposed to have my surgery. So they called.
A sign.
Exactly. They called me and they said, "Look, we can't do it. Everything's shutting down. And when we can open back up, we'll let you know." So that was in March of 2020. Well, anniversary is in May.
Oh, there you go.
About 4 weeks after that, we found out we were pregnant again, and you know, I got my miracle boy. So nice. I had 2 girls, and finally got my boy. And yeah, when they opened everything back up, I shot right down there and said, "All right,
first in line,
take care of this thing, because I'm done."
Yeah, no, I have 2 girls as well, and then my wife even was like, "Don't you have a third? Don't you have like a boy?" And I'm like, "I'm good." But I was like, I kept saying it as a joke. I joke around with it. I say like, if I did have a third, I'd have a third girl. So, but it's all good. Yeah. My girls are great. My girls lift kettlebells too, so it's cool. Or they did. Nice. They haven't lifted lately, but they got a bunch of kettlebells. They competed in my event last year too, so that was pretty cool. It's a pretty cool moment. Like I set up, so all 3 of us like did a snatch set together on the platform. So that was pretty fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. That was like probably like the best moment in my kettlebell sport life. It's like, okay, that's cool. Lifting my kids. That's it. I'm like, I could retire.
Nothing more real than that. Nothing more real than that. I appreciate you saying.
That's it, man. You get your kids up there one day too.
Yeah, I have some of those. Moses Dunka sent me one of his kettlebells for kids. So they come out, they come out here and they swing it around and they'll carry it, have them do carries across the yard and back,
That's sick. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got 2, 4s, and 6 kilograms of Moses as well in the house. So
nice.
Plenty of way for them to grow up with and use when they get maybe more interested. If I keep convincing them.
Well, if you keep doing it and they keep watching you do it, then it's almost going to be inevitable.
That's it.
They see dad do it.
My one kid didn't want to compete this year in my comp because I wasn't going to give her a trophy. Like, give me a trophy and I'll compete. I'm like, okay, I'll get you a trophy.
Right.
But that's it.
Nice. I mean, that can roll us right into our very next question.
Sure. Let's go.
What advice would you give to a new kettlebell sport athlete, or what advice would you give to someone who hasn't competed before that may be thinking of competing?
Probably the best thing first off is obviously like getting a coach is probably going to be key. Definitely will be helpful and help your progress in terms of this learning the sport, the rules, the do's, the don'ts, how to lift properly, how to train you properly so that like when you do go to your first lift or first event, like you fit, like, fit in, but like you look like you've done there before, right? So you actually look like you're not just your first time lifting, right? And I would also to give you like that, like the programming they need so that you are ready again, like you're tapering properly, you're like everything just planned for you, right? So that's one less thing that you have to worry about, because again, obviously lifting on a platform for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, your first stuff can be daunting enough. So that'll take the ease out of that. But then secondly, I would also say, which I don't think I learned fast on myself, was like chasing numbers, I feel, or chasing heavier weights, right? Like, you get into the kettlebell sport and you'll see like Ivan Markov or other lifters lifting 32s and they're like, I want to do that. And they're like, you've never lifted before. Or it's like, just so like enjoy the lift where you're at, like where you're at in your moment, and like get really good at that. Because when you go from like 16 to 20s and 20s to 24s, like it's such a substantial lift difference, right? And if you speed up that process, you're not going to enjoy lifting, and you're probably not going to lift that. You won't be the lifter you want to be or think you are, and then that can be discouraging, and you'll quit. You won't do it because you're like, this sucks.
Right.
So definitely, I would say just take your time, enjoy it, have fun with it, get really good, hit certain metrics, certain numbers in terms of what you're trying to do, because then like when you do move up in that weight, like those reps you're getting, you might see a 20% drop. And if you're not prepared for that, you might be like, man, I'm not good anymore, right? And it could be very mentally draining on you to like want to continue. So that'd be my biggest thing, is just enjoy, lift, have fun with it first, get really good, and then progress to when either your coach says you're ready or you feel that you're ready. And don't think you're going to become a pro 6 months down the road.
No, it's definitely so I'm I'm under 2 years of being competing in kettlebell sport. In fact, I've been training like kettlebell sport for a little, maybe 18 months, but was Tough Temple over here in Bethesda, Maryland. They had that was my actual first competition, which was like a month prior to the All American last year, which was my first 10-minute set, was the All American last year. So, and for me, it was, it's the progression to get to that 10-minute set. And don't be afraid of working those lighter weights, because like you said, the 16 to 20 to 24, those are actually really big jumps, when it comes to the 10-minute sets. So get efficient with the lighter weights first,
Yeah, like I still do 10-minute sets with like 16, 17s, 20s, 21s all the time in my training. And like I can do 100 plus reps on those belts, but it's like I still do it just because, again, it's like it's just another time to lift 10 minutes. And you can work on your technique, work on speed, work on things that you're looking to improve, but with lighter bells, so you're not having to work. Like that's the nice thing too, is like you can improve your skills by using lighter bells, so that when you get to the heavier ones, you know to prepare, like you're better, because
Absolutely.
it's hard to train technique when you're lifting with the bells you want to compete with, or heavier bells that you're not used to training with, because you're now so focused on just not even like the extra strength required. Now you're focused on, okay, I'm trying to improve my technique as I'm trying to get stronger, because I have to lift these 24 to 28s. And you're like, it won't work. Like something will happen, you'll get hurt, or again, you won't get the reps you want. And then, but if you just drop down the belts, it gives you that one less thing to worry about in your head.
Yep. I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. The lighter weights, working on technique is always going to be a thing. I think,
Oh,
there's always going to be an improvement that you can make, an adjustment that you can make to better yourself for the next competition.
definitely,
Right.
100%. Like as they say, like, 10 years in, still lifting kettlebell sport, and I'm still trying to improve on my lifts.
Absolutely.
And again, it could just be even simple as like rack position could be better, overhead position, like anything. There's always hand insertion. There's always one little thing that you could be working on that will make that slight improvement in that next lift, or that next time you're competing, that will get you maybe that 1 or 2 or 3 extra reps that you didn't get before. That's the difference between level 1, level CMS, or level 2 to level 1, like, or getting to that 10-minute mark.
The biggest thing I think I'm working on right now is in my jerk, the drop phase, dropping back down the rack, because you want it to be the same every time. So for me, that's my biggest technique that I'm working on.
Yeah,
because I've got, I coming down. Sometimes I pinch the thumb, or I get the meaty part of the palm, and I'm trying to work on not doing that so much, because
yeah.
for a while there I was starting to develop a nice little lump on my
Oh,
thumb, and I'm like, I have to do something different, because this is not going to work out for the long run.
this is not going to help me.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah. And the one thing too is, I guess it's the good, bad, but it's like 5 different coaches can give you 5 different ways to do it, right? So it's like, it's basically, again, finding what works for you the best.
Absolutely.
You control it down, you just let it drop down. Are you gripping? How you grip it? All these aspects, and then yeah, just I guess what keeps it fun too, because it keeps you thinking, keeps you on your toes.
Absolutely. It's just it always gives you something. There's always something that you can improve on. So
Sure.
it's almost like the lifts they're never going to get boring, because there's always things that you can change up within the lift to make it more exciting, whether you're changing up the intensity, the time, the weight. There's all those different factors. Steven, what big competitions have you been to? Any world championships like WKSF or IUKL championships?
No, I've never been to one of those yet.
Do you have aspirations to do so?
Yeah, I did. I was going to go in, I want to say it was 2021 as well, to it was in Budapest, Hungary. So I was going to go. So I had competed at like the nationals that for the Canadian CKA, and I'd qualified for Canada, and I was going to go. And like another buddy, that a friend of mine who lives near me, we're planning to go together. But then they changed like their vaccination policies they had. So it was like you had to have like the same shot, like 2 Modernas, 2 AstraZenecas, whatever. And at that time, when it was going to happen, I had 1 of each. So I was like, okay, I can't go. So that kind of negated that. But it turned out well. Like I ended up going to like Minnesota instead that year, like Twin City Kettlebells, Jordan. He had his event, so me and a bunch of my friends went, and we actually had a really great time there. I think it was probably better, more fun than if I had gone to Budapest. And then after that, I hadn't really, people had asked me to, like, people said, like, do you want to? And I was just kind of like, at that time, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to. I just like lifting, so I wasn't really concerned about it. And then, like, I did qualify again this past July in my competition as well. So I do have the opportunity if I want to go next year to Italy,
Mhm.
compete for WKSF. So that's in the back of my mind right now. Still, it's still there. If I don't compete, then I will want to. But
Mhm.
even the same point too, in my own head, I always had this thing like if I'm going to compete at a nationals, like a world championships, like I want to be lifting reds, like pros, like so. I don't know why I feel like I have to, but it's just kind of my
Mhm.
mindset. Like if I want to go to a big championship, I want to be lifting like the heavy bells, like pro lifting bells. Like just I feel be more meaningful to myself if I did that
Mhm.
versus just like, or if I'm going to go there like lifting like 24 kilogram like green like long cycle, like I want to be doing 100 reps plus.
Mhm.
Like just really going up there and like showing up and like showing what I can do, not just like scraping out like 75 or 80 reps. Like I just
Right.
want to blow it away.
Right.
So
So
my
have you? What's the heaviest you've done? Have you
oh, I
worked with
have lifted
32s before? Mhm.
I have lifted 32s before. I did like a 5 minute set like 6 years ago. Again, like one of those like my mindset of myself was like, oh, I'm just gonna lift 32s because why not? Let's have fun with it. And I did like 5 minutes and like barely like I was dying by 5 minute mark. And like for snatch, I was able to do like 9.5 minutes.
Oh wow.
But like I think I got around like 100 reps. So it wasn't like snatch wasn't too bad. Like jerks were like whatever, but um, and then beyond that, just like mostly my own practice, like here in my
Mhm.
house, but like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute set type scenario max. Um, yeah, but I've lifted 28s in
Mhm.
competitions, like
Nice.
jerk, like both long cycle and biathlon.
Mhm.
Um, so mostly I stick
Yeah.
to greens. It's a
Nice.
easier weight to manage and to train with.
See, I love that you say that because for me, I'm trying to get to where I'm competing with the greens.
Yeah,
And it's a process. I'm not trying to rush it though, because literally everyone drills it into you nowadays, or since I've been a part of this community, is master the lighter weights and work your way up. And we're on a trajectory to get there, but it's still going to take some time
yeah.
because there's certain goals that we want to hit, that I want to hit with 20 kilos before we move up, and things like that. Let's talk about your nutrition. How do you how does your nutrition affect, let's say, your 24-kilo triathlon for the All American? How do you eat leading into a competition? What's your diet look like? I know you're vegan strong and all that. If you want to
Um,
just dive into some details.
it doesn't change like drastically per se in terms of what I eat. I eat a very similar diet. I eat a lot of fruit throughout the day.
Mhm.
It's kind of like how I feel myself, like during work or when I'm training myself. So, and then like at night, I'll have like maybe like a heavier base set meal, like whatever I feel like eating, stir
Mhm.
fries, uh, whatever, right? Just depending on my mood and how like tired I am, lazy I
Mhm.
want to be. It depends
Mhm.
also how I cook. But yeah, I don't go into like say a carb loading phase because
Mhm.
I primarily eat carbs all the time anyway. So I'm there's not really I have to be like okay, like you don't have to increase your carbs now because it's peak week or it's competition week, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I'm also one of those people like it's so weird. Like for myself, I've trained myself that I don't have to eat a lot of food when I'm lifting. So
Mhm.
like I will like if I'm gonna work out, like I'm gonna work out after this. Hopefully my kids let me. And it's
Mhm.
like almost 10 o'clock. Like I haven't eaten today. And I'll just eat. And I'll lift.
Mhm.
And I can still lift for like 45 minutes to an hour. Like and I'll do like my sets and then I'll eat after. But like
Right.
on a competition day, depending on like when I'm gonna lift, I might just have like a few bananas or whatever. Yeah, a couple bananas like to start. If I know like if I'm lifting at like say 12, I'll have a couple bananas at 10, and then I'll have nothing. And then if my second lift is like 2 hours later, I might have just like another banana. So it's like I don't eat a ton of food just
Mhm.
because like again I'm used to lifting without it, and like if I eat when I eat too much, I feel heavy and I feel off. So
Mhm.
like that's one aspect for myself that's a lot different than like probably most lifters. I can see like they'll be like at events and they're just eating whatever they want, like in between lifts, and I'm just like, no, like I'm
I
good.
can't do it.
Like
I'm,
I have like, you know, pre-workout stuff. I'll use like supplements to like get me to like the energy, like the
mhm,
caffeine, like that. But beyond that, like I felt, and some people are like, oh, like aren't your numbers affected? But I'm like, I don't think they are, because like
mhm,
this is how I've been lifting for 10 years. So it was the same thing like when I used to run as well.
mhm.
Like I'd run a like marathon or 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers in a day, and I'd wake up like if I'm running 8 o'clock, I'll wake up at 6, have an apple, banana, go back to bed, wake up, and then run.
Mhm.
And like my times were improving, like my lifting, like the numbers I'm putting, the reps, like all that stuff, like I'm getting the reps I want or better. So I was like, okay, like what I'm doing is working for me. That's what I say. Like I tell people, like don't copy me, because I'm probably like
Right.
the outlier in terms of like everything when it comes to like how you should. I just, as I say, like I just don't like to. Maybe it's nerves and anticipation as well that cause me not to want to be to eat.
Mhm.
But I just feel that like I can maintain the same diet. Like I would say, the biggest thing I probably would change is that when I'm leading up to competitions, especially if I want to make like a certain weight category or whatnot, I will
Mhm.
cut out like maybe like the cheap foods, like the bad, like French fries, like
Mhm.
burgers that I'm having, like chips, like snacks, like after dinner, like cut back on the amount of peanut butter I'm eating. I know it sounds crazy. Um, I eat a lot of peanut butter. I like peanut butter. So that's like, so
That's
I'm
a good
more,
protein source.
it is, it definitely helps. So that's what I would do more of in terms of like the last week to 2 week before an event. I hone in my diet to like make sure that I'm getting good calories in,
Mhm.
vegetables, fruits, and then like my protein source of like beans, like chickpeas, tofu, eating that, and just making sure like that I'm not taking in anything like say bad that could, you know, yeah, affect me the next day. Because
Mhm.
when you eat bad calories or bad food, like you definitely has like an effect on you the next day when you're lifting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very similar in that aspect. During the week, um, I do I do I do a lot of lifting fasted. I do intermittent fasting. My window is usually 18 to 20 hours. So
Wow.
a lot of my lifts are fasted. But then coming into competition day, I've noticed I like to eat, first thing in the morning, and then, just go the rest of the day. Most of the time. Every once in a while, I'll have something in between the lift, like after the jerk set. If I have like a couple hours, maybe I'll eat like a Snickers or something like that, something very light, you know. But yeah, I enjoy fasted workouts
Yeah.
with very little on the stomach, and I was the same way when I was a big time runner as well. I've never ran marathons or half marathons or anything like that, but I would much rather prefer running on an empty stomach or fasted than
Yeah.
with anything in my system like that.
Yeah. It's, as they say, like people are like, I've been doing this probably for 20 years now. Like
Hmm.
I jokingly say like, oh, I was doing like intermittent fasting. I did that before it was cool. Like it's
Yeah,
just been
yeah.
something that I just did my whole life. And it was just because like I prioritized sleep over like eating before I would have to go to work or have an early morning training session. I just wanted to sleep as much as possible. And then it was like you would eat 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, depending on your first when you had a break.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Hi again. I hear yours over there too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes, yes. Mine's in the mood right now, I guess.
So we'll get into the last question then.
Sure.
What does competing at the All American Kettlebell Open mean to you? And how do you think it's going to contribute to your growth as an athlete?
Well, I think anytime that you get to like lift at an event, a live event, it's always good to like it's something way to improve yourself, right? Like as you say, like lifting at your local gym, your training place, your garage, your basement, whatever. Like you can never replicate lifting live, right? So
Mhm.
I think every time that you can lift live, get on a platform, lift in front of like judges, spectators, other lifters, other competitors, it helps you grow as an individual, because it's going to motivate you to say like be the best you can on that day, like not put the bells down, not stop early, like get that last rep out, right? So I think that would definitely help for myself for sure. And then obviously, like, you know, as we discussed a little bit, like competing on the national stage, like at a world championship, like the more times you can compete in another country, another state, another province, even place, it's just going to help you grow again as another lifter, right? And again, just feeding off that energy from the crowd is always going to help you as well. And again, just make you that better person, and even get to see other people lifting live, and you're like, man, like I want to be like that. Like that's going to help me. Like I like just chance to interact with other lifters and see what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And so I think that's one big aspect. And obviously, you know, getting to lift like as a vegan team too. I think that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah,
as a whole giant group of us competing. I think I've never done that before. Never been part of like a large group of like say vegans who all lift the same way, all think the same way, train as you. And I think that would be kind of special as well to be surrounded by all those people too.
awesome. Yeah, I definitely think we're well on our way to creating a very high level and historic event, you know, with this All American. And I think that, you know, we've had people ask us, oh, why don't you do virtual, you know, allow virtual submissions? I think it'll take away from the experience of this isn't just another competition where, you know, a club is putting it on at their club or maybe a small venue or something like that. This must be experienced in person because you're at this huge sports festival with all these other sports, you know, everything that's involved. Yeah, we could accept virtuals, but we decided not to because we want to give 100% to the athletes that want to show up and want to be there because we don't want to take away from that experience, you know. And I think that's one of our biggest driving factors is why we made this an only in-person event, because we want everybody to experience, you know, the whole shebang, you know, the entire sports festival, not just kettlebells, you know. It's going to be a good integration of the sport with the other sports. You know, it's time that, you know, kettlebell sports start to be recognized as one of those top performing sports for athletes. And I think that's one of our goals here with the All American. So
yeah, no, definitely. Like I say, it's gonna be pretty awesome. And like I say, a big event like the Mr. America, like it's gonna give it exposure as well that maybe more in America than it has ever gone before, type of thing, or it'll start to grow it even more, right? Like
it'd be nice.
Yeah, I know there's a bunch of us here in Canada too that we're trying to do stuff like that too. It's just trying to reach those people to get more and more people interested, right? So anytime, like I say, you can get into an event this size to get you more exposure, it's only going to help our sport grow as a whole in everywhere, USA and Canada and across the world.
Absolutely. Stephen, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I'm looking forward to seeing you and the Vegan Strong team come out and perform big. So thank you very much for doing this.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Anytime, man. Let me know.
All right. All right, Steve. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Bye.